Now, quick look to see what happened on the markets today. The JSE closing above 50,000 points. That's for the first time in 5 months today, mind you. Only property stocks and gold miners under pressure. Gains were led by retailers and platinum miners. It was a good day for local stocks, with Naspers not causing the usual lifts. So you can see the effect of the local costs. 0.6% up for the local market, or the all share. Platinum miners gaining from the price of platinum's sister metal, palladium, which has continued to push new highs. Bloomberg reporting that there was increasing concern in the market that palladium was entering into bubble territory. So we watch that closely. As far as your commodity prices are concerned, the oil price recovering slightly from yesterday's losses. Remember, the price coming under pressure after President Donald Trump in the U.S. tweeted that he felt prices were too high. But as it stands, $65.18 would get you a barrel of Brent crude oil this evening. The rand continues with its resilience. Its strength against the dollar may counter the rises we see in the oil price, and that may just give us a less severe petrol price hike come next month. 13.87 to the US dollar, 15 rand 78 to the euro, and 18 rand 37 cents for a British pound. Well, it's zoning now into some of the share movements on the market. Nesan Nair from Sasfin joins us. Nesan, thanks for coming in. I want to start with Africa's biggest retailer, ShopRite. Not having such a great time. Sales barely moved. And if you look at it, the trading profit was down, I think, by about 19%. Peter Engelbrecht, the CEO, telling us it was that technology disruption that they had that may have really impacted on things. How did you see it?
Listen, they guided to a much weaker December sales update at the beginning of the year. And I think you'll remember the stock was down almost 20%, on the news that ShopRite was going to have a drop in earnings for the first time. So, I think today the market move was positive. They were 5% up because...
Why is that?
Because they guided to a drop in earnings of between 20 and 30%, and they came in at slightly below 25%. And I think the markets also felt that they overreacted initially by selling off the share 20%. When we got a little bit of the detail through and listening to Peter Engelbrecht, some of the justification provided by him was issues of, a distribution center, new systems, technology, devaluation of African currencies, which, he's got no control over. So I think the market believing him that this drop is a once-off event, but we'll just have to wait and see, We're still at, year-to-date, we're still negative for ShopRite, so jury is still out on them.
But let's take a closer listen to what he says about those technology disruptions. Here's Peter Engelbrecht.
It meant that we rebased the entire organization from a technology platform point of view, and that the implementation of that was hugely disruptive. To give you an indication, our store people were affected by more than 81,000 trading days of training on top of the existing job, and that had some stock availability issues.
Well, there you go. Let's move focus to Tongaat Hulett. A third of the value in its share price compared to what it was last year. You add the sugar price tax to the fact that this company has a liquidity crisis. It doesn't look too good for them.
Listen, this is the lowest level I've seen Tongaat Hulett in 20 years.
Yep.
I mean, there is definitely something going on. They did come out with a trading update on Friday. You'll know where they said earnings are going to be substantially below, where they were the previous year, and they weren't, and they were below in the previous year. They were below, compared to the year before them.
Yeah.
So they haven't managed to sell any land. I think land sales have been pushing them through in the last 4 or 5 years. Didn't manage to sell a single hectare of land in the last 6 months. So profitability is looking very weak. They've also got a new CEO now as well. So, it could be a little bit of kitchen sinking some of the numbers. We're going to have to be a little bit careful about that. But a 20% drop on Friday, 20% drop today as well. I think there are some big shareholders selling out shares. I mean, I looked at the volumes. By about 2 o'clock, it was 500,000 shares that had exchanged hands. And by 4:30, it was 1.5 million shares sold.
And you can see it on that graph of today's performance. I mean, you can see those dips moving forward.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to say. A lot of clients are phoning and asking, should we sell, should we buy? the news that the company has put out, I mean, it is a sugar company, it is a commodities company. There are going to be, periods of volatile earnings. But the price action that we are seeing is really not consistent with just, commodity companies' volatile earnings. I think there are some very big shareholders that are exiting this company right now, and, it is a concern for existing shareholders.
Nesan, this PIC amendment bill, all right, so the National Assembly adopts it. But there are concerns. We have the ANC and the EFF giving it the green light, but there are concerns, even outside the political spectrum, about this issue of prescribed assets here, where fund managers will be compelled to invest in one way or the other in some of the developmental projects that the country has. Explain to us the fear around this.
If you cast your mind back to the 80s, the height of apartheid, at that stage, the PIC was only allowed to invest in bonds, largely government bonds, really. So we had these prescribed assets at that stage. And then, the decision was taken to allow a little bit of freedom when it came to the mandate, and the PIC subsequently became the biggest equity investor on the continent. I think the concern, a lot of investors, nobody likes prescription. Especially from an investment perspective. The money invested by the PIC actually belongs to, the government employees. It's really their pension money at stake. And, surely they should have the same opportunity to earn returns that the rest of the market has access to. And prescribed assets prevent that from happening. Yeah. And, given the lack of accountability that's taken place, it's very difficult, to justify to a pensioner or a person going on pension, why his pension isn't what it should be and not grown to the extent that it should have grown because of the mandate forcing him to be invested in developmental projects.
Let's switch back to some company news now. I mean, Vodacom down today, 1.3%. And I'm thinking, well, it was one of those few companies that were in the red. This outcry over its so-called rollover fees, has it got anything to do with it?
I think it does have something to do with it. The fact that Vodacom want to charge customers, who have data expiring to roll over that data. Remember, ICASA was very firm on the fact that cell phone companies could not allow data to expire without having them rolled over. To charge a fee for that, obviously a bit of an outcry from potential customers. But I think globally, emerging market telecoms are going through a very difficult time now. It's similar to what the mining industry experienced about 3 or 4 years ago, where investors were just heading for the hills. You'll know that one of the big telecom providers in India, Reliance Communication, filed for bankruptcy beginning of February. And what was left there was just a mountain of debt and a whole lot of unsatisfied customers. Now, I don't want to mention any names locally, but some of the local telecom operators are finding themselves in a similar situation. Lots of debt, unable to meet the CapEx requirements going forward, and trying to generate cash flow by cutting prices, which is your classic race to the bottom. So, I suspect that a lot of investors are probably waiting on the sidelines, getting out of the telcos, because there's an anticipation that there's going to be a shuffle in the industry.
Yeah, I was going to just pick your brain on the rand, but yes, some time to actually reflect on that. I'm afraid we're out of it. Nesan Nair from Sasfin, thanks very much indeed for coming in.
Thanks, Evan.